The Model Penal Code, from the inception of the project, was designed to give jurisdictions the tools they need to deliberately change their policies and enact purposeful, thoughtful sentencing policies. The current draft has a new provision, wasn't in the original Model Penal Code, that addresses circumstances of correctional overcrowding. And what we've observed in recent history is that prison systems over the last several decades have tended to grow often out of control. We've also learned more recently that probation and parole supervision populations have equally grown out of control, so that the United States is not only an international outlier in the number of people we incarcerate, we also as a nation are very different than other Western democracies in how many people we put on probation, how many people we put on parole. So we see the problem of correctional overcrowding, not just in prisons, but in all criminal sanctions, as being very acute in this country. And the current draft gives states the option of creating mechanisms that are in place to deal with these problems on an ongoing basis. Instead of waiting for an emergency, you have ongoing mechanisms to deal with overcrowding that allows you to look at your prisons and jails if you're well over capacity and ask questions about who can safely be released, which sentences can safely be reduced so that we in fact can incarcerate the people who need to be incarcerated for public protection, but setting the priorities so that that can happen in an overcrowded environment. In probation and parole, we create the same kind of mechanism because just as overcrowding prevents the system from operating as it should in the prisons and jails, terrible overcrowding in probation and parole prevents the people who are trying very hard in states and localities to provide the kind of services that probationers and parolees need, in some instances to provide the level of surveillance that is needed given those parolees and probationers. And caseloads are just frankly so outrageously large in this country that we are trying to introduce some administrative mechanism to prioritize and to say, well, there are some people who can be let off early so that the people who most need supervision can get that.